Okay, so I'm considering this the most important video when dealing with AI in 2026. Let's get into it. That's right. Welcome back to the channel. And I've got a question for you. Have you ever dealt with AI and been like, man, what in the world is going on here? How come it's not working the way I want it to? Well, here's the deal. Every time you sit down with ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever you're using, and I found out today that Grok doesn't even have a custom GPT, or a gem is what they call it in Gemini. So I was kind of shocked, and well, I was asking Grok. I was like, "Well, what's the benefit of having you?" Well, the benefit of having Grok is that it's really good at scanning the web and giving you information versus the other ones that don't quite do that. Yet at the same time, I need a custom virtual assistant, AI buddy, whatever you want to call it, custom GPT, gem. We're going to get into that today because that will save you time. That will also save you money. And well, I've spent over $300 with bad prompts doing my best to figure it out. And I was like, man, the world needs to know about this before they get too deep into, creation, because talking to AI, it needs to know everything, lots of details, things that you probably took for granted and didn't understand. That's what it needed until you start spending money and the prompts aren't what you need them to be in order to get the best output. And on this channel, you'll see that I started with a new GPT and had it render a bunch of images that weren't any good and had to re-prompt. Now, once you go through those growing pains, it'll get easier. It won't be perfect. And yet at the same time, AI is forever changing. So it would probably be a good idea to put your best foot forward and just understand, working with AI, there's going to be a few mistakes along the way, or learning experiences, or reprompting. And the better you are at saving your history, the easier the future will be because it'll already have learned from those mistakes. And that's what this video is about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And here we are. For those of you that are unaware, you can make a custom GPT, and that's what these things are on the side. You can also create folders and projects, and keep your history of all the different chats that you had. And that would be important because it would remember the information that you gave it to begin with. And when you use a custom GPT, it will remember what you loaded into it, but it won't remember the conversation if you hit refresh. Yet, this is something else that I learned, that every time you have a chat with it, it puts your chats over here. So if you have some sort of breakthrough and then you X out on the tab by mistake, like what I did, you will still be able to get to your history and say, hey, look, Chat GPT, what did we learn today? Can we update our custom GPT? Or would it be better to have a ledger? And I didn't understand what that was too recently. So every time I have some sort of development, it writes out a new ledger. So before we get too far into that, when you come over here, there's a little button down here that it says explore GPTs, which is kind of exciting. So, and then we can go to create or edit your GPTs. So, what we're going to do today is go ahead and create. And then once you've created it, and then you have developments as you create projects or navigate through life, you can go through your GPTs, you can give them images, and then you can edit them and give them different names as needed. Make sure to stay tuned to the channel and find out how I spent $300 building this bad boy right here, which is called Sora 2 and HeyGen. And boy, did I spend some money and make some mistakes making this the way it needs to be made. And on top of that, I have Sora 2026. I think this is the one where I spent the $300 figuring out the best prompts for Sora. So tell a friend to subscribe to the channel, and then we'll get into that on another video. So again, explore GPTs, create GPT, give it a title. And believe it or not, I asked AI the best way to go about this. So I said, here are 5 beginner proof tips to set up your own virtual assistant in ChatGPT, even if you have zero clue what a custom GPT is, because this video is for the beginners. And hopefully this will skyrocket your success. All right, so with that in mind, Give it one simple sentence to start off with. My social media caption writer, or my appointment setting assistant, or my follow-up message writer, or my personal estimate drafter. So what's that saying? Just keep it simple to begin with. Don't go in expecting it to do 10 to 20 tasks at the beginning. So whatever your mission is, be super clear. Now, one of my favorite coaches, he would say, tell me what you do in one sentence and who you help that a fifth grader would understand. So let's start simple before we get too complicated, because it's going to have to learn you as you grow. All right. So like it says over here, bad, help me with everything. And over here, it says good. Write replies that book calls for my service business. So basically, we're looking for someone who can write copy or respond to emails. And then number 2, write a how to talk card, your voice rules. Copy and paste this every time as you save it in your notes. Or you can add it to your instructions. How about that? Your audience. Me, since I'm a AI biz inspector, would be audience, small business owners. Tone, friendly, direct, a little funny. Maybe I think I'm a lot of funny, but we'll see. Style, short sentences, lots of white space. So that's another thing that I learned from another one of my coaches, is that when you write marketing emails, the goal is to make the audience make it look like you wrote it. So you would just keep it like a regular email would write. And at the same time, format it in a way that it's easy to read. That's why it says short sentences, lots of white space. And that's what most coaches and influencers use when they're writing their marketing and follow-up emails. The do's, give examples, clear steps. The don'ts, corporate buzzword, long essays, politics, right? All right. So number 3, lock the output format so it stops freelancing. Tell it exactly how to respond. And this is one of the things I was struggling with the KEE virtual assistant. I would, just paste in an email, and then it would give out all this information that I didn't want it to give out. And I was sitting there getting angry with it when I didn't tell it the exact instructions of how I wanted it to reply to the emails that were coming in. And then once it understood what I was looking for, then we started to gain some ground. Again, you don't even have to type this stuff out. You could just click this little microphone button over here, ba-boom, and just talk to it. That's what I did. When I was driving to a gig, I turned it on and said, this is what I'm looking to do. And then it would ask me questions about DJ service. I'm like, well, this is important. This isn't important. This is important. This isn't important. This is how I operate. No, I don't want you to go this way. This is what I'm looking for. And I did like for an hour, just talking back and forth with it while I was driving, like a regular conversation with somebody. And then every time it would get something wrong, I'd be like, no, it's like this. Or it would get something right, and I would be like, oh, okay, it's like that. So I talked to it for like an hour. And then once I was done talking to it, I was like, spit out all the information that I need to copy and paste into a custom GPT. And that's what became my virtual assistant. Now, as I started working with it along the way, things that it did, it didn't do, or as I updated information with the company, I would just update the GPT. And that's what runs or helps me run my DJ company as far as the back office is concerned. Because you also want to be able to feed it information like booking links, price sheet links, how to respond to certain questions that it asks. Because 90% of the time I want somebody who's a lead to go to a Zoom link and schedule a Zoom link so we can talk, person to person, versus someone who's just looking for prices, that kind of thing. And it knows that now, how I operate. And anytime you would hire an assistant, you would have to get them on your track as well. And then even if I, down the line hired more humans, I could go to this ChatGPT and say, hey, look, these are my instructions or my SOPs. Type those out for me. And then I can hand them to somebody, or even produce them in audio, or have it make a virtual video of a guy saying it. I don't know. Also, feed it a cheat sheet, right? So make a quick business info paste. Like, what do you sell? Who do you help? Your hours of service, pricing range, your booking link or next step, frequently asked questions, and objections to those questions. And then we also have number 5, your go-to prompts. Write a reply to this email to get them booked. Here's how I would like you to proceed. or turn this into a 30-second video script with 2 jokes and a CTA. Write 5 follow-up texts for someone who didn't respond after a quote. Summarize this call transcript into next 5 steps and tasks. So again, super important to have a custom GPT so that you don't have to say the same information every time you talk to it. And with that in mind, right? So again, I'll show you mine. I'll use a different tab. So basically, you could give it a name, give it a description. Even if you had one business, one could be like, oh, this person only, or this virtual assistant only writes respond emails, or this one only writes social media posts, or this one only writes out contracts, I guess. And then another cool thing, right? If you go to Gemini, you could say, please scan this website for FAQs, right? Oops, if I knew how to spell it. And I go, I'll just use mine. And just like that, Gemini went to my website and scanned my FAQs. And that's basically how simple it is to provide FAQs when you're setting up an AI chat widget or an AI chat voice. So the new thing with Go High Level is that you could go to a website, instead of doing text back and forth, you could do voice back and forth. So creating those FAQs are as simple as scanning a website and then you're up and running. So let's do a quick recap, right? So quick recap, go to ChatGPT, explore GPTs, create a GPT, give it a title, give it a description, put in your instructions, but spend a good 20 minutes or so talking to GPT to have it give you the instructions that it would like, and ask it questions, what would be the best? And then again, those questions or rules to follow or steps to go, give it one job, write a how to talk, right? This is my audience. This is how I want you to talk to them. And then lock the output format, which what do you want? Short text message, slightly longer version, voicemail script, what are you looking for? What output would you like it to give you? And then give it a cheat sheet, like, what do you sell? Who do you help? How much information can you give it? And then create go-to prompts like, respond to this email, or write me a 30-second script for a short reel or something like that. And then there you have it. And then one other thing too that's kind of important to understand is that if you have PDFs or documents that you could turn into PDFs, you can upload those and it'll also scan that for more knowledge base. The only time you would want to do a ledger, which again, I have a ledger. If I share my screen again, every time I do a long session and have a breakthrough, I have it rewrite the ledger. So when I start, like, I'll copy this, right? So I'll go to a new screen, right? And then I'll pull up my GPT, and then I want it to remember all the developments I've worked with, and it creates a ledger. And now every time that I operate, I put this in first, and now it knows how I want it to go. And then from there, as you make mistakes, or as it gives you prompts that you don't like, or as you're working with certain engines, you just correct from there. And then you no longer have to worry about that imperfection. You're just adjusting for the next imperfection. And as you work with it over time, you'll get more and more of what you're looking for versus starting out with it every single time on a fresh sheet. So keep that in mind, and I will catch you on the next one.